Hey guys, it's Ben at Upstart HR, and my friend Chris Ponder over at Extreme HR, he had this really neat idea to do some questions about career challenges and things like that, because it seems like the whole underlying foundation was that everyone has these similar experiences, but everyone thinks that they're unique and that they're the only one that had to go through that tough time or whatever else, and so he was kind of wanting to bring people together and say, tell me your story, do a video, write something, whatever. Just let me know, these answer these questions about your career basically. And so I've been kind of busy, so I asked him, hey, there's lots of questions. I'm going to do it in one run. I've got my notes here. Actually, it's just a big list of the questions. So I'll try to run through here and hit some of the high points, and hopefully it will be at least a little bit valuable and useful. I feel bad for making Chris wait for it because he's a really great guy, but anyway, better late than never. Here we go. So, why did you choose your profession, and how did you get your foot into the profession? Well, I decided that I was going to be in HR before I even knew that it existed. When I was young, I worked for my parents in their machine shop, and they had they had half a dozen employees, and so I always saw the issues that they faced with recruiting the right people, keeping them around, compensating them, handling problem employees, things like that. And I said, there's got to be some easier way to do this than what they're facing. So I always thought that I was going to go to school for management. Well, I get to college, and one of our professors assigned me a paper on human resources, and never heard of it before. So I went out and started researching and everything, and I realized that's exactly what I wanted to do. It dealt with all the people type issues, and it was just what I've been looking for. So, at that moment, I said, this is what I'm going to do. I graduated a couple years later, and now I'm a couple years out of college and working in HR. I love it to death, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else. My employer at the time was paying me to do a job that was not HR, but my supervisor was fantastic, and she got them to approve the company paying for me to finish my last semester of school. Well, because I did that, I was their indentured servant for 12 months after that, or I had to go back and pay for the school, and I didn't really want to do that as a newly married guy. So, anyway, a year after that semester, that last semester of college, I started looking around, hunting for some job around here, and it seemed like everything said you must have experience for even those basic positions, which makes no sense, because how are you going to get in there if you don't have experience in the first place? Anyway, so eventually, April of 2009, I got a job at a place called Volunteers of America, North Alabama. I was an HR assistant, and it was my first HR job. I was so pumped, and so that's how I got started. Let's see. Second question. That was the first one. There are 3 total, and it's going to be long. Anyway, did you face any challenges coming into your career or profession because you were new and or young? Both. I said I was just out of college, and I was new to the whole profession thing, so I had some challenges with people believing me, and at first they were right, but eventually at first I could give them the benefit of the doubt. I was just starting out. I didn't know a heck of a lot. But eventually, even after I'd been through it and I'd done these things and I knew what I was talking about, the same people were still kind of, treating me the same way. So I realized that, maybe those people were going after me because of my age, maybe. I don't know. I don't want to use that as an excuse or a crutch because, heck, I don't need it. But some people are going to do that, treat you that way just because they think that they know more or they're better or whatever. One of the funny little things that bugged me about my last job, I guess, was that I could come up with this idea that was, something that we had never done, and it could save us money or, make our people better, happier, whatever. And, I would go to my manager, who's the vice president of human resources, and I would say, hey, I have this idea, let's look at this, I think it could be great. And the response was usually, nah, maybe, no, not now. So, pretty much a brush off. Well, my friend who, he started there a month after me, but he had 3 or 4 years of experience in HR. He is like my informal mentor now. I love the guy to death. But he could go in an hour later, throw down the same exact words that I said, and would get the rubber stamp of approval like on the spot. So, I don't know. Anyway, it's just a funny little thing about having some experience and credibility behind you to really be able to make some changes and things like that. I hate the phrase "you got to pay your dues" when you just start out. But I mean, there's really not a lot of options besides doing whatever you're given really, really well, and that's how you move up eventually. If you get disheartened and decide that you're not going to do it well because you want to be doing something else, well, then you'll probably never get any farther than that. I'll be honest, I was dissatisfied at work, and that's the big reason that I started blogging. It's because I wanted to have an outlet for ideas and creativity, and I wanted to keep growing, even though I knew that I'd be in this position where I was going to be stale because of the nature of the role. Updating HRIS is not going to be earth-shattering or teach you anything new. So, anyway, if you had a degree, did this assist you in your career? Honestly, about 10% of what I learned in school was actually useful. When I started working in HR, the other 90% of what I did was learned by reading or doing something outside of school. So, it's kind of sad that you have to have this degree to be able to do it for the most part, but it didn't really add any value for me. So, basically I spent years in school doing whatever so that eventually I could forget it all. Anyway, has there been a major mistake you've made in your career? Not yet. I'm sure there'll be one eventually, and it'll be a doozy. What's been a major achievement in your career that you'll never forget? The job that I have now is probably one of the greatest achievements that I've ever had in my career, and it's just amazing to me that I get to be in the role I'm in now. I said my last job, I was basically a peon. The role that I have now, my title is HR specialist, but I really do generalist type work, and it can be anything from recruiting to policy formulation to talking with managers through performance issues and all kinds of just everything imaginable. We're a small company, so I get to do a little bit of everything, and it's so much fun. I love it, and it's just an amazing place to work. So that was definitely the best thing that's happened to me in my career so far. How have you made an impact in your organization or profession? In my organization, I've only been here for a couple months, so not much yet. I'm really trying to get us back to the culture and the values and things that they originally started out with. The company's only 3 years old, so we're really still new and fresh, and things are still exciting. And I want that kind of atmosphere to stay with us, no matter we're 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, whatever. I just want us to keep that. So I'm looking at ways now to help instill the values that we hold and build that culture that we're never going to be old and stale and slow, and a place where people can come for their careers to die. Anyway, so that's just a couple of things that I'm doing in my organization. For the profession, I write a lot, I talk to people a lot, and I just try to share anything that I learn with someone else. If I do that, it's just fun for me, and I don't do a lot more than that. So, yeah. Anyway, alright, we're down to the third section finally. Based on your profession and career that you told us about in question 1 and 2, let's close the series. Have the past 3 years in the economy impacted your career? No, not really. I said I got my first job in the last 3 years, my second job in the last 3 years, so it's not really a big deal for me. Development is not always the organization's responsibility. Amen. Individuals should take charge of their development both personally and professionally. What are you doing in 2011 to develop yourself and increase your skills and abilities? That's a good one. I actually wrote about that recently, about how you have to own your own growth. Don't wait for someone else to walk up and hand you some training and say, hey, you need this. Like I said, I write, so that means that I have to go out and learn things. I go out and research all the time. This job is really challenging me to grow and learn new things and new ways of doing stuff, and stretch into places like compensation that I'm not really comfortable with. I don't enjoy as much, but it's things that I probably need to know to be more well-rounded. This year I want to speak more on things that I enjoy and attend more events, and I've got all kinds of things to do this year for the whole development side of things. So I guess all I would say is I challenge everybody else to do something yourself. Don't just wait around for something to happen. Don't expect your company to know what you need, because they're training you for the role you have, not for where you want to be 10 years from now. So just think about it that way. My big career achievement this year is not dying, and to keep growing and doing well in the role that I'm in now. What's the next step in your career? It's interesting. When I started my last job, I immediately was thinking, a couple years down the road, I'm going to have to find something else. Just because, like I said, I knew that role was going to be stale and it was going to be restricting, and that's just how I felt. I knew it immediately. It was just a fact. With this role, with the way that things are going now, I don't know, when I'll leave. I don't know what career change I'm gonna make, because as long as I'm learning and being challenged and growing, I have no reason to go elsewhere. If things get stale or whatever else, that's when I'll have to seriously evaluate moving into something else. For those that want to enter your profession, what advice can you give them? If you want to get into human resources, gosh, it's a good one. Do it because you want to help businesses succeed. It's not about being a people person. I like people. That helps. It's not a big major function of the role. It's all about developing ways for the organization to get better. It's hard to get it down to like 10 words exactly what you need to be doing if you want to get into this industry, this field. But one thing that I will say, try to find a role that is more generalist in nature if you can. You never want to get stuck in one role if it's not what you plan on doing 5 years from now or 10 years from now or whatever. If you take a role as say a benefits specialist, and 2 years down the road you decide you want to be a recruiter or something else, well, it's hard to translate that over into that other position. Even though they're both within like the HR kind of umbrella, they don't lend well to each other. So if you do get something, if you do get stuck and all you can take is a benefits specialist position, then look at ways that you can reach across and handle other types of duties that are not exactly in that role, whether it be, finding ways to work on other projects, cross departmentally or whatever else. Excuse me. But just trying to get yourself pigeonholed into one little area, because usually you'll come to realize that that was a poor decision. And even if you have this title, try to have things on your resume, those little bullet points that are all important, that that you do projects or whatever else that are in other areas besides that. Excuse me. Anyway, my voice is giving out, my throat's giving out. That's all I got for you guys. Thanks.